All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, a lot of people are likening today's Super Bowl matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a hypothetical matchup between an in his prime Michael Jordan against an in his prime LeBron James. And that's why the comparison to me is not relevant or pertinent. What this really is a litmus test of exactly how great Patrick Mahomes is. Because Tom Brady is going to test him and his squad today. There's very little doubt about it in my mind. And if Tom can't do that, that's going to be the first definitive sign that he's no longer the quarterback that we expect him to be and that he's been over the last 20 plus years. Because Tom Brady, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is the football personification of the clutch gene. There's no doubt about that whatsoever, that he has certain intangibles that make an elite level, a spectacular level performer. He has that same aspect or that same component that Michael Jordan had, that Floyd Mayweather had, so on and so forth, that when the stakes get higher, he gets better, and he has the ultimate level of adaptability, which is the highest level or the supreme level characteristic that a performer can have, that they can adapt to any situation. So we're going to learn a lot about Patrick Mahomes today because I am on the quote-unquote Patrick Mahomes bandwagon. I view him as possibly being potentially the greatest football player ever, that I've ever seen anyway. As of right now, the greatest football player that I've ever seen is Jerry Rice. If there were ever a football player that I would liken to a Michael Jordan, it would be Jerry Rice. When I think of someone who is great at everything, I think of Jerry Rice. And also who maxed out on the tangibles and the intangibles. Of course, there were certain things that Jerry was not a 10 out of 10 on, like breakaway speed or hands per se. But both of those things, football-wise, were a 9 or 9.5. When I look at Patrick Mahomes, I've never seen a quarterback, not Dan Marino, not Jim Kelly, not Joe Montana, who's my personal favorite, not John Elway, not Warren Moon, not Drew Brees, not Aaron Rodgers, not Peyton Manning. Never seen a quarterback who maxed out on the tangibles and the intangibles. Pat Mahomes has the tangibles of a John Elway and a Dan Marino with the intangibles of a Tom Brady and a Joe Montana. I've never seen anybody like this in my life. So I think that he should look at it as a point of achievement that he's now starting to receive naysayers in the media, haters per se, who are trying to find little chinks in the armor that they can take advantage of. Oh, well, he didn't play very well in last year's Super Bowl. That's why I say that this year's Super Bowl is a great litmus test for Pat Mahomes. Because if he doesn't play well in this year's Super Bowl again, this is going to become something along the lines of what we see with Lamar Jackson. A player who seems to not play at his best in the biggest moments. As of right now, Patrick Mahomes has been the quintessence of raising your game when the stakes are raised in the playoffs. He's been the best playoff quarterback that we've seen with this small sample size. But this is going to be a great moment for him as well as his squad, because coming into the game, even though the Chiefs are viewed as the betting favorite, player for player, they do not have as good a personnel or roster as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But what they do have is synergy. And they also have, in my view, the most talented quarterback ever. So we're going to learn a lot today. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Today is the day you tell me who wins Sunday.
Skip, I've said this all along. I believe it's going to be a shootout. I believe it'll be higher scoring than what it was the original game when they played it. I think.
I'm not quite sure if it's going to be a shootout or not. What I will say is this. There are going to be some moments, assuming that Brady does not have one of his turnover issues that he's had in a couple of games this season. There are going to be some moments in this game where the Kansas City Chiefs are going to start to question themselves and whether or not they're going to be another victim of the Tom Brady mystique or the Tom Brady magic. Very low doubt, unless they can pressure him and get him to throw some interceptions, which we've seen him do over the course of these playoffs. We saw him throw 3 a couple of weeks ago against the Green Bay Packers. So if Kansas City's defense, which is very opportunistic, can get Brady flustered and make him make mistakes and get him to think about the pass rush, that's a way that they might be able to create some distance between themselves and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But this is a different Buccaneers team. This is a Buccaneers team that's really believing themselves right now and believing in themselves right now. We know Kansas City always believes in themselves. And they have, phenomenal connections between Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Mahomes and Travis Kelce. But will that be enough? Especially with their offensive line being so debilitated.
I think the final score was 27-24. I believe more points will be put on the board. I'm hoping that the thunderstorms or the shower that they're expecting, I hope they hold off until
I don't think it's going to happen. They're saying it's in the morning and it's going to blow away. So.
I'm hoping so, Skip, because the last thing I want is, sloppy play, the rain having an impact on the game. I just wanted to be, everybody on a level field.
Agreed.
And ball out.
That may be the last time we agreed this whole show.
But, Skip, I'm taking the Chiefs because it's hard for me to see.
I'm also taking the Chiefs. I'm not quite sure as of right now what I believe the final score is going to be. But, history tells us that it's going to take around 40 points to beat the Chiefs. So right now I'm going to take the Chiefs and I'm going to pick a final score of 35-28.
See a scenario in which the Chiefs does not get 30 points. I watched Washington turn the ball over with their backup quarterback that was taking online classes. He got 23. Drew Brees got 20 points with 4 turnovers. Aaron Rodgers got 26 points with a turnover. My homeboy has scored basically, what he got? Averages 34 points in his playoff career. 6-1 in his playoff career. He's gotten at least 31 in every single game except the game that he got hurt the first the first drive of the third quarter against Cleveland. But the matchup within the matchup is going to be JPP, Shaq Barrett against the 2 backup tackles for Kansas City.
Absolutely. And that's the only chance that Tampa Bay has. That their DNs are able to, at the very least, get Patrick Mahomes to be concerned about what's going on around him. Maybe get him to step up into the pocket. And then Ndamukong Suh might be able to hit him with a dirty hit or something like that. To me, that's their main hope. That's their main focus. Because even if they sack him 4 or 5 times, I don't see that really stopping Mahomes. I think that Mahomes and Andy Reid and Bieniemy are going to be creative enough to try to nullify the pass rush with bubble screens and things of that nature. Quick slants to Travis Kelce or, button hooks to Tyreek Hill, so on and so forth. Also, Sammy Watkins is coming back today. That's going to be pivotal for the Kansas City Chiefs passing game when it comes to possessions or possession type scenarios like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, where you can hit him in the middle of the zone for a 7-yard, catch.
Can they protect Mahomes? If they can protect Mahomes, I believe they'll get to the magic number, which is 38. If they cannot protect Mahomes, I still believe they can get to the high 20s, maybe low 30s, but that gives Tampa an opportunity to get to an even higher 30s. So I'm going to take the Chiefs. I got them winning 38-34, and Mahomes is going to be spectacular. He's going to need to be spectacular because
other than the Super Bowl last year, I'm not quite sure if I've ever seen him in a game where he wasn't spectacular. And I'll say this also. There's precedent for Mahomes still being great, even in a game where the pass rush was clearly having an effect on him. Remember that classic Chiefs versus Rams Monday Night Football game a couple of years ago, where he turned the ball over like 4 times, but he still threw for like 500 yards? So it can still go down with him, even if you get to him.
As we mentioned yesterday, Skip, I believe from top to bottom, player for player, roster to roster, I believe Tampa is the more talented of the teams.
There's no doubt about that. Tampa Bay has the better roster, player for player. But sometimes, the sum of the parts are better than the parts when they're separated.
But I believe Mahomes is the difference maker. I think Fox Bet, I think all these gambling sites believes Mahomes is the difference maker. So I'm going Kansas City 38. I'm going Tampa 34, and the Chiefs become the first team in 16 years since the great New England team to go back-to-back.
So, you're telling me that a washed-up 43-year-old quarterback with declining skills is going to put up 34 points on Steve Spagnuolo's defense, an architect who shut him down in the first Eli Super Bowl? Really?
Chris Jones is going to be pivotal in this game. He's going to have to get a lot of pressure on Brady. We do know that Tom can get happy feet. He can start to see ghosts out there, even the great Tom Brady. You want to get him to the point where he's worried about the concepts that Bruce Arians wants him to, to bring out there onto the football field, the no risk it, no biscuit stuff. You want to make Tom Brady believe that he does not have time to wait for Mike Evans to get deep. To get him to the point where he just starts throwing balls up for grabs like we saw a couple of weeks ago against Green Bay. That's when the opportunistic defense of the Kansas City Chiefs with Breeland and Honey Badger can take advantage of it.
Interesting.
Hold on, so you just now yesterday, that's not what you said. Yesterday you was talking about they beat the number 2 defense, they did that. They beat the number 4 defense, they did that. They beat the number 9 defense. If you don't
Thank
mind
you. Thanks for listening so carefully.
So where's Kansas City ranked? They're in between 2 and 4, or they're in between 4 and 6?
Who had the highest ranked defensive player on the board according to Pro Football Focus? Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs, a game wrecker, blowing right up the middle, right in Tom Brady's face at 43, right? You got that going for you, but you're going to poo-poo that.
One guy, but they got 3 guys on the offensive line in the top 10. We got one guy.
Chris Jones is a very impactful player, but Kansas City has been renowned for the last 3 or 4 years for having a very weak linebacking core. So look for Cameron Brate as well as Gronkowski to have a very good impact in this game, as well as Antonio Brown, particularly in those slot patterns, those slot routes.
In the top 10, and you're like, oh, Chris Jones. You see how you trying to build that narrative? If Tom Brady does this, this is his greatest achievement ever.
Okay, it is my turn. And I will begin my prediction with the truest truism I have ever spoken in all my years watching, covering, observing, deciphering your game, professional football.
That being that I'm in love, not in like, but in love with Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II. Love ya.
There is one man in sports I do not bet against, especially when the stakes are highest and the...
You know, Shannon and Skip should go out on a double date. Shannon could take LeBron out and Skip could take Tom Brady out.
Pressure is greatest. That man is Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. He is the...
You can always tell when Skip in love with somebody. He start calling their middle name, their last name, their whatever is at the end of all that shit, the third, junior, the second. He loves calling that shit out when he's in love with somebody.
Michael, Jeffrey, Jordan.
No doubt GOAT. Yet, he's the doubted GOAT by so many. Because...
I hate when people do that. Nobody doubts that Tom Brady is the quote-unquote greatest quarterback ever. Now, is he number 1 on my list? No. Number 1 on my list right now is Joe Montana. But a lot of that is, directly correlative to the era that you grew up in and who you saw when you were, in a certain stage in your life, particularly, formative years. When I watched Joe Montana, I was 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. So players that you watched in that time period, those formative years, are always going to have a higher level of impact upon you in your subconscious. Do I think that Tom Brady is a better quarterback than Joe Montana? No. I don't think that there's anything that Tom Brady does better than Joe Montana. I can think of things that Joe Montana does better than Tom Brady. He's a better scrambler, he's a better runner, he's a better thrower on the run than Tom Brady is. But when it comes to clutch gene, they're right there. One can even make the case that Tom Brady is better in the clutch than Joe Montana, even though to me, they're pretty much indistinguishable. But just to get back to the point, Skip's notion that Tom Brady is so disrespected is a complete fallacy. Tom Brady gets all the respect in the world. It's not like people get on TV and say, I think Dan Marino is better than Tom Brady. I think Dan Fouts is better than Tom Brady. I think Warren Moon is better than Tom Brady. Every once in a while, you'll have someone like a Shannon Sharp who'll state that he thinks that Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady. I've said for years that he maxes out on the tangibles. He can throw as well as anybody who's ever thrown, if not better. Whether he's running right or left, he can do everything. He can make all the throws. But where Aaron comes up short, and it's been like this for years, and I've noticed it for years, where Aaron comes up short is in the intangibles. In the big moments, Aaron does not get it done. He just doesn't. He's a lot like Dan Marino or Dan Fouts in that way. Nothing against either one of those two quarterbacks. I saw Dan Marino play. He was great. But there was a certain je ne sais quoi that he was missing that other quarterbacks in that era had when it came to intangibles. Like John Elway. John Elway had that swashbuckler aura to him, like he was going to get it done in the big spot. You never felt like Dan was going to make it happen in a big playoff game. With the score 24-21 and the Dolphins driving. You never felt like that about him, and I never feel like that about Aaron. You feel like that about Joe Montana. You feel like that about Tom Brady. to a certain degree in his prime, he felt like that about Brett Favre. So those are the differences to me. But once again, this notion that Tom Brady doesn't get respect, that's nonsense. These networks, they genuflect to Tom Brady.
I picked him and his Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win at New Orleans, to get revenge, to get even with their nemesis, the Saints. And you all but laughed at me on this show sitting in that very seat. Then I picked Tampa Bay to go up to the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field and to outduel Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game. And
let me say this, and I'm not trying to poo-poo or minimize any of the achievements of Tom Brady or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've had a very good playoff run. But have there been any games where you said to yourself, I can't believe that Tampa Bay won this game? Even though they got their asses whooped the first 2 times against New Orleans. Anyone who's paid attention knows that, number one, Tampa Bay and New Orleans were pretty much even Steven when it came to personnel. And when it came to quarterback, and I've always said this, to me, Drew Brees is one of the more overrated quarterbacks ever. I've done videos about this. I'm not even quite sure if I would have him in my top 10. Where I would put him number 1, slightly ahead of Brady, is when it comes to quarterbacks who've gotten the most out of themselves. Drew Brees at 5'11", 210 or whatever he is, not having a very good arm. For him to be at or near the top of most of the quarterback stats, or the various metrics to evaluate quarterbacks, for him to be near the top is phenomenal. He's gotten the most out of his abilities of any quarterback ever, slightly above Tom Brady. But Tom Brady is discernibly better than him, discernibly greater than Drew Brees. Like, discernibly. It's not like it's a question or it's a conversation. So I was not surprised when Tampa Bay won. Tom knows how to not make mistakes. Drew he's always been turnover prone. Look back at many of the seasons where he threw for over 5,000 yards. It would be customary for him to have interception numbers in the high teens, low 20s. And he played in a dome.
You all but ridiculed me sitting in that same seat. So I'm not going to back off. I'm going to pick Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. to do it once more, to do what he has always done in Super Bowl games. I believe, because he has won 6 rings with 6 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter overtime of Super Bowls, that he will do it again. We are going to see another late game-winning drive from Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, in which he is installed and instilled in the Patriot way in Tampa Bay. And they have caught fire.
There's no doubt, of course. I mean, at least if Bruce Arians is intelligent, which I believe that he is, moderately intelligent and experienced, that he's going to allow Tom Brady to have, the ability to concoct 60% of the offensive game plan at least. Because you want Tom to feel comfortable, especially in a matchup like this. And especially with Tom's experience, Tom's probably the one at the chalkboard. He's been at the chalkboard the last 2 weeks with his guys, letting them know where he needs them and what he wants to get accomplished.
Fire, right on schedule. I think they're a little hotter and a little more meant to be fairy tale story than the Kansas City Chiefs are. I've told you that I think the Chiefs have used up all 9 of their lives this year, and I think they won't have one left this time.
Hasn't Tom used up all 9 of his Super Bowl lives? Because the games have been close, remember?
Every game is close.
Because this is what I don't understand, Skip.
That's why I expect this one to be very close and competitive as well. I expect there to be certain moments in this game where the Kansas City Chiefs, they might start to doubt whether or not they're going to win this game. Tom Brady could put that type of whammy on you mentally. He's very Jordan-esque in that way because of his mental dominance over his opponent. But we'll see.
Thing that you praise Brady for, winning close ball games, you and others have diminished Pat Mahomes for doing the exact same thing. They're not.
Because Pat is at the point now where he's so great, people are, they're spending more time and they feel like it's more interesting to look for flaws than to just repeat what everybody else says. I've noticed Stephen A. Smith has really gone in on the attack Patrick Mahomes, tip lately. For whatever reason, I mean, he's frustrated with Aaron Rodgers. Or many of these talking heads on TV, they don't get their takes from themselves. They get their takes from their favorite athlete who they might happen to text or call. So maybe Stephen A. Smith is turning on Patrick Mahomes because of conversations that he's having with Aaron Rodgers, where Aaron's telling him, look, Steve, if I had Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, I could do that stuff too. You know how these guys are. They get on TV, they talk about how great this player is, but behind closed doors is a whole different thing. But I just noticed like a really firm shift within Stephen A.'s perspectives on Patrick Mahomes recently.
Blowing people out, they're winning. I thought the objective was to win, not by how many. Tom Brady wins by 1, 2, 3 in the Super Bowl. That's great. Pat Mahomes win. Oh man, they should be blowing these teams out.
Okay. So we'll see about that, because I think he's going to do exactly what he always does with a late game-winning field goal drive. But I think the script is going to be flipped on its head. I see a completely different game than you just detailed and outlined for me. I see the opposite of a shootout. I see a defensive struggle on both sides. I do. I don't
see that, but if it were to occur, would it shock me? No. Because these Super Bowls, anything can happen in these games. When I watched Mahomes in last year's Super Bowl, he was doing some strange things that I would never have expected him to be doing. And it did appear to, at least to me, that the nerves, the situation, as well as the aggressiveness and the efficiency of the defense that he was going against started to get to him a little bit. But his talent shone through at the end.
Low score. I see 23-20 Tampa Bay over Patrick Mahomes. I say that Tom Brady will swallow his ego in ways that Andy Reid will not be able to. And for once, he'll say, this game is about playing keep away and letting my defense play the game it plays the best, which is take away. Who led the entire net?
Well, Skip, it's interesting that you say that, because I think that the Kansas City Chiefs could play keep away just as well as the Buccaneers can, depending on how healthy Hilaire is. But we'll see. Hilaire missed, like the last 4 or 5 weeks of the regular season. I think he missed a game in the playoffs. I believe he came back for the AFC Championship game. So he could be a very impactful element in this game as well. The Chiefs can run the ball when they put their minds to it.
National Football League in takeaways. The Tampa Bay defense did. What did Patrick Mahomes do in his first Super Bowl a year ago? Well, late in the game, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, they were still down 20-10, and he threw 2 what I thought were ugly, eyesore interceptions. I was shocked by both of them.
Well, one of the interceptions that he threw was on a no-look pass, which was a very ill-advised no-look pass. I don't think that he'll try that in this game unless he's really feeling himself and they're probably up by 17 or something like that.
But he managed to overcome them by getting away with a 3rd and 15 from his 35 play with 7 minutes left in the game, in which he's got a rusher right in his face and he just flings it to the moon into the left flat.
No, not quite. Actually, that was a planned play, and Patrick Mahomes saw Tyreek out there in the flat by 35 yards down the field, and he made the completion. That's what happened, Skip Bayless. If Tom Brady had made that play, you'd say that it was the greatest calculated play in Super Bowl history. So let's be fair.
Tyreek had to stop, come back, wave for a fair catch, and catch it for 44 yards, and that saved the game. So by Patrick standards, I thought he was below par in that game. I thought that was a substandard performance by Patrick Mahomes. So I say, with the weight of the world on his shoulder pads, with the world already proclaiming this kid the greatest quarterback of all times,
well, he's not the greatest quarterback ever, but in my view, he is the best quarterback I've ever seen. Once again, I've never seen someone with all of the various characteristics that he has, all wrapped in one. It was almost like he was made in a laboratory. I mean, normally when you look at quarterbacks, they have an abundance of a couple of characteristics that make them great, but they're missing something here and there. Like Joe Montana, he was not known as a quarterback who had a particularly great arm per se, even though his arm was better than he got credit for. When it came to John Elway, there were certain people who might say, no, maybe his ball could have a bit more touch to it. He was known for breaking his receivers' fingers. Same with Brett Favre. Also, Brett Favre was known for turning the ball over too much. He had a little bit too much swashbuckler in him. Pat Mahomes just seems to have it all. I mean, we consider the first year that he started to be him as a more turnover-prone quarterback, and he threw 52 touchdowns and only 12 picks. This year he only threw, 6 picks? And I think that one of them, one game, he had 3 of them against Miami. And last year he threw, 4 picks with 26 touchdowns? So, I mean, the dude has it all. Is he the greatest? No, of course not. He hasn't played long enough. But he is the best that I've seen just looking at the eye test, just going by the eye test.
Eye test, not obviously on resume, that he will get a little desperate because, to your point, they will have a hard time protecting him. I believe that the defense will swarm on him. I believe both those rushers, I believe the 2 inside rushers, I believe Vita Vea and Sue will have their impact, blowing up the pocket from the inside out. And I believe he won't be able to escape as usual because those 2 guys can run on the flanks.
Once again, I think that Andy Reid's going to have some plans or some counterattacks for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass rush, should things get that desperate or get that bad. I don't believe that Andy's going to have Patrick back there taking 7-step drops and, going from option 1 to option 2 to option 3. I think that there are going to be some reads and some patterns that are implanted into the offensive game plan so that Patrick knows exactly who to throw the ball to if things, start to get a little crucial, particularly in important moments in the game. He's not just going to be back there guessing and having to escape 3 and 4 guys all the time. There are going to be moments like that over the course of the game, but it's not going to be something that's consistent.
And I believe they'll mix in a blitz here or there, but mostly they're going to play cover 3. I think they're just going to play safe defense where you can't get behind us. Tyreek had 203 receiving yards in the first quarter of that game on November 29th at Tampa Bay. He's not going to have anywhere near that because they will double him and they will double Travis Kelce.
Skip Bayless, I have news for you. There are only 11 guys on defense. You can't double everybody. You can't double everybody. If you're going to double Travis Kelce and Tyreek, that means that their other receivers are going to have to be prepared. And I have news for you. I believe that they will be prepared. Can't double everybody.
And I believe this game is going to be about Tom Brady's duration of clutchness. I believe it will be more ball control. I believe they'll run the ball a lot more than you think they will because I think they can run the ball on Kansas City. I believe Brady will be the one in the meeting saying, hey, both of our safeties are iffy for this game. Antoine Winfield Jr., the quarterback of the defense who missed the Green Bay game, I don't know if he can go. He's been limited in practice. He's got a terrible ankle injury. And even if he tries to go, will he be half of what he used to be? I don't know.
Well, Skip, I believe in the first game that...
Well, we'll find out early. Because if Winfield tries to go out there and play hero when he's not ready, Patrick Mahomes will expose it very quickly. I promise you that if they see Winfield out there, they're going to have a couple of receivers, run some routes to test him, to test his ability to read the offense as well as to catch up to the receiver who's being targeted by Mahomes. So if he's not ready, he'll get pulled early.
They wanted to run the football, but they went 3 and out on so many possessions and 17-0.
Well, when he throws for 359 yards in the first half, what do you think's going to happen?
Right.
Okay. So since then, one man has emerged, and his name is...
That's right, Skip. Patrick Mahomes threw for 359 yards in the first half. Was Winfield playing in that game? Did they still have the same pass rush? Of course, people are going to say, well, they had, one of their tackles who's currently injured was there. But, I mean, damn. I expect this game to be a far higher pitched game. It's going to be a very highly pitched game. So we're going to see if Mahomes can intimidate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense when they come out with, with such a fever pitch. And he can counterpunch them because that's how you deal with someone who tries to press you through zeal. You have to match their zeal and show them that not only are you not going to be intimidated, but you're going to be the boss. So we'll see. That's something that Mahomes is going to have to establish in the first 2 drives. If he can't establish it in the first 2 drives, you're going to give Tampa Bay's defense too much confidence.
Leonard Fournette. And all of a sudden, he's starting to live up to the hype that he had at LSU when I thought he was going to win a Heisman Trophy. Our first year on the show, I predicted he would win that Heisman. And he went to Tuscaloosa once again, and he hasn't been seen since, right? Okay? So he finally found his rebirth, his second life in the NFL, if not from college football, in Tampa, just the way I believe. And by the way, Antonio Brown is practicing full speed. I think he's going to be a factor in this game, as in ball control. And I believe that Leonard Fournette is going to get somewhere around 100 yards rushing. I believe Leonard Fournette.
That's saying a lot. Unless Fournette breaks a couple of 25-plus yard runs, I don't see that at all. Kansas City Chiefs, their defense is a little bit better than people give it credit for. And I just don't see the explosiveness in Fournette. Now, he's a great downhill runner. He had a phenomenal touchdown run against the Packers. But I don't see him getting 100 yards. I could be wrong about that, though. We'll see.
Fournette is going to catch 8, maybe 10 balls because, little known fact, your defense allowed the most receiving yards of any team in the NFL to running backs. Right. You can hurt them with running backs. Leonard Fournette can really, really catch it.
But you need...
Lies. Leonard Fournette has terrible hands. Terrible hands. And if he has to have 8 to 10 catches, Tampa Bay is probably in trouble, because if Tom Brady has to throw to him that many times, it probably means that the Kansas City pass rush is getting to him so quickly, he's just looking for outlet receivers, as opposed to looking down the field like Arians wants him to look. That means that Mike Evans is not going to be as big of an impact, or any of the other receivers, Godwin or even Antonio Brown. So you really don't want Leonard Fournette to have 8 to 10 catches, because that probably means that Brady's thrown to him anywhere from 12 to 15 times. And over a course of a game where you would expect Brady to have anywhere from 35 to 45 passing attempts, if 15 of those are going to Leonard Fournette, your offense is probably not doing very well.
Need to be Leonard Fournette or Christian McCaffrey to make that pay off. And Leonard Fournette is not one of those guys in the receiving game. I granted he caught a big third down 2 weeks ago against Green Bay on fourth. Would have been it was fourth down, not third down. He's caught a couple of plays. He caught the angle route against New Orleans for the touchdown. So he's gotten better. But I don't believe Leonard Fournette is the guy that can beat you in the passing game like a Alvin Kamara, like a Christian McCaffrey. But Tom does like to throw. Remember in that Super Bowl skip, he threw 14 passes to James White. He loves throwing to the running back because he'll take what you give him. The one thing that
you cannot compare Leonard Fournette catching the football out of the backfield to James White.
You know about Tom, especially in this game, he will not force the football. In the times that he's forced it, he's paid the ultimate price. He forced one against Atlanta, Skip, he went pick 6. He forced one against Seattle, they picked that. So normally Tom is very caught.
I'm not quite sure if the pick 6 against the Falcons was a force. I just think that he misread the defense. If you ever catch the highlight of that game, Tom and the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, Josh McDaniels, they actually discuss how the defensive back for the Falcons tricked them, because he had played that route one way for the majority of the game. But on that particular defensive call, he was designed to try to intercept, of course, the ball by first intercepting the receiver running the route, that being Edelman.
When he throws the football in the Super Bowl, because he knows you pay double for those types of interceptions.
Okay, so I believe you're going to see Brady at his subtle greatest, where it's going to be long drive greatness. And I believe that Tampa won this Super Bowl in the final 3 quarters of the November 29th game, in which it looked like they were about to get blown completely off their home turf.
Well, I'm sure that that's how Tampa Bay is going to try to sell their team over the course of the last couple of weeks. So that's how they have tried to sell their team, that we're going to win this game. Look at how productive we were in the second half of our original game in the regular season. I mean, the only real way that I could see Tampa Bay winning this game is to utilize the same defensive tactics that have been used against all-time great offensive teams in the Super Bowl in the past. When I think of some of those tactics, I think of what New England did against the greatest show on turf back in, I think it was 2001. I also think of what the Tennessee Titans were almost able to do against the greatest show on turf the year before that. And of course, the seminal example of that was what the New York Giants were able to do against the Buffalo Bills and their K-Gun offense back in the 1991 Super Bowl for the 1990 season, of course. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the Giants had lost to the Buffalo Bills in the regular season. Thurman Thomas just destroyed him. Thurman also destroyed him in the Super Bowl, by the way, but that was a concession given to the Bills offense by Belichick, knowing that they're not going to be able to stop everybody. So we'll give up yards to Thurman as long as we can hit Andre Reed and James Lofton and Keith McKellar hard enough over the course of the game to make them no longer want to go across the middle. So that's normally how you beat teams like this. But in this day and age, can you hit a Travis Kelce? Can you hit a Tyreek Hill hard enough to make them no longer want to come over the middle?
Because if you look at what happened in the last 3 quarters of that game, Brady threw for 313 yards, fairly quietly, because it looked like they had been embarrassed.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. How many of those yards did he throw for when they win one score?
Okay, well, you can argue they took their foot off the gas. You can argue they relaxed on defense. You can argue all the above. But in the second half of that game, Patrick Mahomes threw for a grand total of 103 yards.
That's very true, but also let the record show, number one, it was very obvious to me that at some point in the game, Kansas City started to take their foot off the gas pedal. And number two, Patrick also missed a play that would have been a 95, 96-yard touchdown to what's this guy's name? McCall Hardman. They were at their own, 5 or 6 yard line. And McCall Hardman was wide open. I mean, wide open. Right up the middle of the field, and Patrick missed him. Because he was trying to lead him to his outside shoulder to avoid the safety, but he led him too much to the outside. That would have been another, that would have been a 200-yard half to link up with the 350-plus yard half in the first half of Patrick. So, I mean, it is what it is.
They started to draw a bead on him. They started to figure out how to play him on defense, and Tom started to figure out how to play Spagnuolo's defense on offense.
Thomas had plenty of opportunities to play against Spagnuolo's defense. Spagnuolo just seems to have his number to a certain degree. We'll see what happens today. We do know that Tom is a mastermind and a wonderkind, so maybe Tom will start to perform better against Spagnuolo's defense. We'll find out.
And it started to click because Tampa won the last 3 quarters 24-10. Tampa won the second half 17-7.
Right, but what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? In an NBA game, if you're up by 40 at the half and the team that's down by 40 wins the third quarter 25-15 and then wins the fourth quarter 25-15, you still lost the game by 20. I mean,
2 long drives in the fourth quarter directed by Brady, 75 yards and 73 yards, cut the score to 27-24 with 4 minutes and 10 seconds left, and the defense could not get him the ball back, or I believe he would have won that game.
But that's the thing.
Right, but Kansas City was playing to prevent defense, Skip Bayless.
Though, Skip, but you never had the ball with a chance to take the lead. You never had the ball when you were within one score.
Well, you were lucky they didn't have the ball.
You had the ball, Skip. You keep saying Patrick.
No, we didn't. The last 4-10, not once.
Skip, you keep saying that Patrick Mahomes only threw for 103 in the second half. Even though he did only throw for that fewer yards in the second half, he still had 100 more passing yards than Tom Brady threw for the entire game.
And he got him in the first quarter. Seriously. It was as an embarrassing a defensive scheme as I've ever seen. They stuck poor.
Now, that's the best point that you've made thus far over the course of this segment, Skip Bayless. That was a terrible defensive scheme. But many times, especially in the regular season, when a defensive coordinator, especially an elite level defensive coordinator, is going against a team with a great offense, he won't show everything that he's going to do because he'll anticipate that we're going to meet this team in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl in this case, and I want to save certain tactics for that game. So I'll be willing to, just test certain things out that might make me look foolish in this game so that I don't give everything away. So I think that there may have been a bit of that with Todd Bowles when it came to his defensive game plan for that game.
Carlton Davis, who's a talented kid, but he's just a kid, in single coverage on Tyreek much of the first quarter, some into the second quarter, and he got embarrassed. He gave up 200 yards receiving to Tyreek in single coverage.
Well, you call him a poor kid. Now, when he was on the IG talking about Michael Thomas, he didn't say. I mean, you didn't say nothing about no. He didn't say no poor kid.
You know how corners are. You have to have indomitable spirit and confidence, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you did your thing on Devontae when you making picks. Ain't nobody say nothing about no poor kid. Man up.
Okay. Well, here we go.
Yeah,
you just challenged him. I'm going.
Tyreek is a whole different animal, though. He's a whole different animal. I said this a long time ago. Tyreek Hill is the best wide receiver in the NFL. And I felt that way for a couple of years now, particularly since Antonio Brown was removed out of the league for his ritual. Tyreek, to me, has pretty much taken over that mantle as the best wide receiver overall in the NFL. When it comes to consistency, explosiveness, running every route. I mean, of course, Julio is elite. But Julio is just one of those guys who's just there, but seemingly he's not there. His team never is really in true contention to win anything, and he gets hurt a lot. But Tyreek can just do everything. He's a whole separate animal from Davante Adams or Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas, honestly, is a bit of a product of Drew Brees. Davante Adams is phenomenal. But he's more of a possession receiver who makes explosive plays every once in a while, kind of like a Chris Carter.
Glad. Keep talking. I need it. He needs it.
Hey, he got to worry about me. He need to worry about 10.
But you know what he's going to need most? Help.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to have help. Yes.
Well, his help needs to come from JPP and Shaq Barrett.
Okay.
That's where his help needs to come from.
All right. So here's what's going to happen. Tom Brady is going to win the clock in ways they couldn't win the clock the first time. They lost the...
The only way that he's going to be able to win the clock, Skip Bayless, is if Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones combine for about 200 yards rushing. That's it. I don't see Tom Brady being able to dink and dunk his way to a whole bunch of points and keep the football away from Patrick Mahomes. I just don't see it. I mean, we'll find out. We'll see. But I don't think that that's a major aspect of their offense or the offense that Tom is running right now. Bruce Arians allows him to have some input and some influence. But it's never going to be, let's just throw 5-yard routes and get first downs that way. Not in Tampa Bay.
The clock 37 minutes to 23 minutes. If that happens in this game, it's lights out. It will be everything you think it is and most people think it will be, which will be Kansas City will score close to 40 points. It could get ugly if they win the clock 37 to 23.
Well, a lot of that, Skip, you got to realize their first 4 possessions they were three and out.
Okay,
well, if you go 3 and out, that means you only have the ball probably 2 minutes of those 4 possessions because a lot of those are incomplete and you're stopping the clock. And so you give Mahomes, and he put together a couple of long drives. Now the one was only one play. He went 75 to Tyreek over the top. That didn't take a whole lot of time. But he did put together some other scoring drives, and even when they came away empty, Skip, that was a nice 8-9 play drive before Shaq Barrett got through there and forced a strip sack in the red zone. Or it was about to get real ugly. It was about to get Bubba Sparks in that thing. It was about to be 24-0.
What happened in the opening drive at Lambeau in the NFC Championship game? They go 3 and out?
No, they went right down the field. And
boom, boom, boom. 3rd and 4, boom. 3rd and 7, got it.
Yeah.
3rd and 9, got it. Touchdown. Okay.
And what did Green Bay do on their first possession? Sack.
Okay.
Shaq Barrett off the field. Boom.
Okay, that's got some potential to happen this time. But I do believe that they will mix in more runs, more short passes, more ball control, because Brady is genius at this. He knew he had to put Aaron on his heels at Lambeau by scoring first. They won the toss. Green Bay won the toss, and as most teams do, they deferred, and Brady said, oh, okay, watch this. This time, I believe more long drives because, as I wrote my piece the other day when I was talking about how underappreciated Brady still is, how underestimated he still is, he has no signature Super Bowl plays. He is spectacularly unspectacular. He doesn't throw no looks. He doesn't throw left-handed passes. There is zero Mahomes in Brady. So
I'm not quite sure if I agree with the notion that he has no signature plays in the Super Bowl. I mean, I get what he's trying to say. It's not like it's Montana to Taylor in Super Bowl 23 or anything like that, or John Elway doing the helicopter. But, Brady's had enough moments that, one could say that it's near signature. Maybe the Julian Edelman play where the ball popped in the air and Edelman caught it. something like that. But Brady has had some signature moments.
So if we could see what I concluded about his clutchness in my piece that I wrote for FoxSports.com, I said Brady is long drive clutch, subtle, steady clutch, extended clutch, monotonously, efficiently, effortlessly clutch,
Boringly clutch, lovingly clutch. I love him.
boringly clutch. That's what this guy is, and it's hard to love it because there's no wow factor to it. Mahomes is complete wow factor. Brady is textbook. Mahomes is like watching the TMZ website. It's just like fireworks are going to go off everywhere.
Well, I agree with you because most clutch players, whether no matter the.
Well, that's why I like comparing Tom Brady to Tim Duncan more than I do Michael Jordan. I mean, there's been this attempt to try to link up Tom Brady to Michael Jordan. It's a terrible comparison. Number one, because it's two different sports. Michael Jordan had to play both defense and offense, and he was as great on defense as he was on offense. I mean, to make the comparison between Michael Jordan and Tom Brady would have to be Tom Brady at quarterback and then be Ray Lewis at middle linebacker or Ed Reed at safety for that to be the same comparison, because that's pretty much what Jordan was while he was in the NBA, particularly on the Bulls in his prime.
Sport. You have a signature moment, whether it's Tiger Woods or 18 at the U.S. Open, or maybe that shot that he spin back into the hole at Augusta National, or maybe it was Jordan holding the pole.
You can just keep going.
We think about it. Everybody's had that pole, that walk up, that moment, and Tom is just basically a lot of times when Tom wins the game, he's on the sideline.
Yeah.
He elementary kick the field goal, or he's hoping his defense gets a stop. So you're right. I mean, he hadn't had that moment. But he's done some amazing things, especially because as many times as he had to throw the ball to get them in position of all the things that could have happened, Skip, a tip, guy bobbles the ball, a fumble. He's had none of that happen, really, on the last drive.
He has not. And remember, when you have 6 game-winning drives in fourth quarter overtime to win 6 rings, that means you went a long distance without one thing going wrong, because it just takes 1 inch, 1 ounce.
Oh, so he do.
Okay.
That's what you said about Mahomes. He said Mahomes with 9 lives, so he should be due.
Yeah, but this guy's got longevity resume.
Yeah.
This guy is the one guy that history screams, Shannon, be careful. In these moments, you don't bet against him.
Yeah. Even history says that if you do something long enough, the odds, if you fight long enough, Mayweather got out at 50. No, he knew if he kept trying to go, let me try to get the.
Absolutely, and that's the real brilliance of Floyd Mayweather. He knew when it was over. That's why I have that series, Know When It's Over. It stops you from embarrassing your damn self. Not just in sports, but in life.
51. Let me try to get to 52. The odds were not in his favor. The odds of you continuously putting together these game-winning drives are not in your favor, Skip.
Except he's Tom Brady.
Okay.
And your guy is Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, boy.
And he's had a sensational start to his career. But he is not invincible. See last year's Super Bowl. And
Well, no one's invincible, Skip Bayless. Tom Brady's not invincible. It's very obvious that Skip is very intimidated by Patrick Mahomes, like extremely intimidated by him, and he views him as a threat. It's not quite like the dynamic that he has in how he perceives LeBron James. I think that Skip knows a lot of things about LeBron James off camera, off script, that makes him lose respect for LeBron, especially in how LeBron's trying to market himself as being greater than Michael Jordan. When it comes to Mahomes, I think that Skip's looking at Mahomes like this guy could actually catch Tom. And I think that bothers him. I think that he views Mahomes as a serious threat to Tom Brady.
the totals for this game, the over-unders on the passing yards for each quarterback are high. And I think they're way too... You think they're both going to go over their over-unders, or Brady's 300, Mahomes is 320. Yeah. I think neither will go over their totals.
Over that. I'm betting over.
Okay. Do you realize how many times Patrick Mahomes has thrown under 300 yards in his career? Because he does it a lot. Because it's hard to throw for 300 yards.
Yeah, but he's averaging 307 for a career. So do you know how many times he's thrown over 300 yards?
Okay, 7 times last year he went under 300. In the Super Bowl last year.
Keep in mind that last year he had an injury issue. And he was never able to, fully regain a lot of the swag that he had the year before. I think that he dislocated his kneecap against the Broncos because prior to that, he was on another pace to win another MVP. He got hurt, and then it just became the Lamar Jackson show.
Year, he went under 300. In the AFC Championship last year against Tennessee at home, he went under 300. The season before, 9 times he went under 300 yards. In his MVP season, he went 8 times under 300 yards. So I say this is going to be more of a defensive struggle where he will have lots of pressure on him that he hasn't had before. I say it's going to be the most pressure he's going to have in his face, maybe in his career. And I believe that...
Well, that's what you're hoping for, because honestly, that's your biggest hope. That's your only hope, because if they can't get pressure on Mahomes, this could be 45-20. Because the Chiefs are certainly going to come into this game with an attitude, especially with the way in which the media is trying to build up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Tampa will take the ball away from him somehow via fumble, sack, fumble, interceptions. I believe they're going to have 3 turnovers.
You do.
Well, that's why I brought up that Mahomes has a history of having games where he's turned the ball over a lot and still been dynamic. See that legendary Monday Night Football game against the LA Rams a couple of years ago. I mean, even against Miami earlier this year where he threw 3 picks, I believe that he still threw for over 300 yards.
Realize that the guy's only turned the ball over twice in his playoff career.
Yep, I got
twice.
It. Number 1 in takeaways is Tampa Bay. What have they been doing to everybody they play? What did they do to Drew Brees? What did they do at Green Bay?
We don't give it away, though. That's what we don't do.
Okay, well, good luck. And now we get to the psychological motivational factor. This is the icing on my cake. Tom Brady did not make the Pro Bowl, and it was a huge thing.
He didn't deserve it.
Okay, so
Tom did deserve to make the Pro Bowl. That's just Shannon talking shit. Especially if it came down to Tom Brady and Kyler Murray. To me, Kyler Murray is just somebody that people talk about a lot because it's early in his career, and he stands out because he's so short, his lack of stature. But after a while, the lack of stature is going to start to get old, and it's going to start to become more and more apparent that his lack of stature is going to compromise his team's ability to win big games. Because the game plan is always going to be keep him in the pocket and just make sure that you get your hands up when he tries to throw the ball through passing lanes while stuck in the pocket. And that's going to inhibit his team from being able to advance. They're going to be a team that goes 8-8, 9-7, maybe 10-6 every year, similar to a Doug Flutie when he was with Buffalo. It's going to be a great story, but after a while, it's going to get old. None against Kyler, who's a phenomenal athlete.
Pro Football Focus graded him the 2nd best quarterback in pro football, and then in the postseason, they graded him number 1 in the postseason. Yeah. And he did not make the Pro Bowl over Kyler Murray, who got the 3rd quarterback spot for the NFC.
Right.
Trust me, he is on fire for that.
Why are you on fire for that? He told Devin White, don't worry about the Pro Bowl. He got other bowls to worry about. So now he on fire for that?
Tampa Bay had no Pro Bowlers except JPP, who's a backup.
Yeah.
So Devin White did not make the Pro
I
Bowl.
thought Devin White.
Okay.
Now, you know what I think about him. I actually thought he should have made the Pro Bowl.
Okay, and I've told you all week that Kansas City is talking big, bad stuff. They are full of themselves.
What did he say?
We're going to talk about this a little later. It came to their owner, Clark Hunt, comparing Patrick Mahomes to Michael Jordan. That's how much...
Well, we know that Frank Clark talks a whole gang of shit. Now, when it comes to the comparisons with Michael Jordan, Jordan's always going to be the barometer of greatness, particularly when it comes to a standout, exemplary individual on a great team. Do I think that the comparisons between Mahomes and Jordan are pertinent or relevant? No, not really, because once again, I don't like comparing football players and basketball players. But if we're just going to evaluate eye test and having all of the tangibles and the intangibles, I see the comparison. But their career arcs are so different. Patrick Mahomes has started out his career winning because he pretty much came onto a team that was just missing a great quarterback that could get them over the hump. Jordan came onto a team with nobodies, with cokeheads.
They're full of themselves.
They ain't nothing better than Mike Evans. At the same point of their career, he was better.
Yeah, okay. There you go. You're doing it too good.
Well, he's definitely more accomplished.
Love it. We love it.
Am I lying?
We'll get to that. I'll get into that. But remember, Patrick Mahomes has been saying for 2 weeks.
When it comes to who is better, though, let's keep one thing in mind. Michael Jordan came into the NBA as a rookie and led the league in points scored. Not in scoring average, but in points scored as a rookie. Next year he gets hurt. He comes back before the playoffs, sets the record that still to this day stands of the most points scored in a playoff game. Third year, he averages 37 points a game and has over 200 steals and over 100 blocks, but doesn't make the all-defensive team because they gave it to Michael Cooper. Next year, averages 35 points a game, shoots almost 54% from the field, has over 200 steals and over 100 blocks again, wins the MVP regular season award, as well as the Defensive Player of the Year award, as well as the All-Star Game MVP and the Slam Dunk Contest. That's in his first 4 years. So if we're talking about individual accomplishments, they're right there with each other. If we're talking about team accomplishments, clearly Mahomes is, has advantages over Jordan.
Mahomes, one of the best ever do it, if not the best. One of the best?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to talk about disrespect from a kid?
Michael Jordan would have never said somebody was better than him. Michael Jordan never said Larry was better than him. Mike was
Why would he? No one's ever been better than Michael. Ever.
better than him. But so you want everybody, you judge everybody by Michael Jordan standards, except when it comes to Tom Brady. If they don't bestow him, put the crown on his head, how dare you do that? No. Patrick.
I wish somebody would make Skip play Russian roulette and say, who's better, Jordan or Tom Brady? If you don't answer, you got to pull the trigger. Skip just keep pulling the damn trigger.
I don't know. Click, click.
Mahomes, I don't take a backseat to no one, and he's better at this point right now.
Okay, good. So we've established the fact that Patrick Mahomes believes he's better than Tom Brady. Thank you. I love that. And finally, the coup de grace. And I'm sure they have shown this.
Once again, that's why this game is so pivotal, particularly for Mahomes. If Brady loses, it's just Tom went to his 10th Super Bowl. He's a little older. It's whatever. If Patrick loses, I don't see where he's ever going to be able, and this has been a big discussion over this, this past couple of weeks. I don't see how Patrick can catch Tom as being considered the greatest quarterback ever if he has 2 pivotal losses to him in the playoffs and Tom has 7 Super Bowl championships. Because now Pat has to win 6 more just to tie Brady, who already has, the matchup advantage. So Patrick has to win this game if he wants to be considered or possibly be considered the greatest quarterback ever down the line. This is extremely integral. I saw Shannon Sharp trying to go off about it. Oh, that's not true. It's not that big a deal. Yes, it is.
Tape again and again and again in Tampa film sessions this week. Can we see what Tyreek did after the 17-0 touchdown on November 29th? We should see it over and over and over and over again.
You're probably going to see it again?
Yeah.
You're probably going to see it again.
Okay. All right, good. I dare you, Tyreek. I dare you to backflip in the Super Bowl. I dare you.
Andy told him, say, wait, because, we don't want anybody to cheap shot. And, we won't be able to finish the game because we're going to swing.
Yeah, Skip, we're going to take it to a whole nother level. We're not just going to backflip. I have it on a very good source that Tyreek is going to wear hammer pants over his football pants. And he's going to backflip and do the hammer dance in the end zone when he scored on Tom Brady.
But anyway, Skip, you could have stopped that. You could have prevented that. All you had to do was just stop Tyreek.
You're into lions and tigers and cheetahs.
I am.
So help me out. Is the cheetah not afraid of the lion?
Yes. What lion?
Yes.
Well, the cheetah is pretty much the pussycat of the Serengeti. I mean, they hunt, but they're pretty much scared of everything. Every other carnivore other than themselves, they're scared of on the Serengeti.
Lion can't catch
Tampa's got lions all over its defense.
Can't catch it with a fast land, man. With a fast land.
You know what happens when a lion does catch a cheetah? It's over.
It's over.
Your day coming.
Yeah. Your day is Sunday night. By the way, real quick, Jenny, before we go, I'm going to give you one shot at this. I will take the, 3 points. I'll take the 3 points for, I'll even just do it for one case because I'm going with the huge upset here.
Nope.
Yeah, it's going to be funny as hell if Tampa Bay get blown out just to see Skip Bayless's his face on Monday to see what excuses he going to have.
I can't believe it. Bruce Arians told Tom Brady to wear 1-inch cleats. He should have wore 2-inch cleats. That's why he threw 4 interceptions. This is terrible.
No points.
No points? Why? Are you afraid?
I tell you what I will do though. I do 3 cases straight up.
Straight up?
Straight up.
I gotta have the 3 points.
No, sir.
Well, why wouldn't it be? I thought it was gonna.
Yeah, come on, Shannon. How you gonna pick the Kansas City Chiefs but not give the man the 3 points? Are you saying Kansas City might win by 1 point? At least say, okay, I'm gonna give you 1.5. I mean, shit.
Be a 7-point game.
Damn.
No.
3 cases straight up.
Thank you for watching.
But anyway, that's basically it on that, brothers. We'll see what happens. Once again, my prediction is Kansas City.